Welcome to Team Bitcoin, where we cover the latest news and how I'm personally profiting from it. I have my wife, Michelle, in studio today.
Hello.
She wanted to be off camera because, why?
I didn't fix my hair.
All right. Well, I added her because I have a unique perspective on Bitcoin, but hers could be completely different. Her knowledge level and her understanding of that technology is going to be far different from mine, and our perspectives are going to be quite different. I want to start out with a story before I get into the news. I was in IT when Bitcoin first got established. I read about it while I was traveling down to the San Antonio area on a flight, and I came home and installed it on my computer network, command-based prompt, it looked like DOS, and I was playing with it. Now, I'm a math person, and I ran the numbers to figure out how much power my computers, because I had a network, about 5 computers with GPUs, graphic processing unit, video cards, and I looked at the value of Bitcoin, which I believe was about 70 cents at the time, and how many you could mine, and my analytical brain said, you know what, the cost of power and wear and tear on my hardware is going to far exceed whatever value this is. The other thing I was trying to figure out is, where could I actually spend it? So, Michelle, you had an idea where to spend it. What?
Why would you do that?
I just got to bring it up, right? You were convincing me to mine it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Why? Now, let me preface this. I was military and I deployed quite a bit. So, I'm out of town for 4 to 6 months at a time. So why did you want Bitcoin? Just say it. Tell them. Don't be
porn.
For a porn site, right? There's a porn site that was accepting it. So, yeah, the underpinnings of Bitcoin have been nefarious. And if you go back and read the white paper, they were trying to solve a problem, and that was the financial system, inflation, the devaluing of a currency, to have borderless transactions that were decentralized so that there was no central control. It was trying to solve all the problems that, honestly, in 2025 are being highlighted now. The devaluation of the dollar, the struggle of inflation. You feel like you're making more because you got a raise, but you actually aren't because everything else costs more. So, my perspective of Bitcoin over the last duration of 18 years has evolved into something completely different. As a 20 to 30 year stock trader, options trader, I have a unique perspective. I was trading derivatives and options, puts and calls around Bitcoin before that was even a thing. But got caught up in the FTX thing because they bought the company that I was trading with called LedgerX. That's a long story, but let me tell you, I am profiting handsomely now trading Bitcoin. I don't want this to be a financial channel. I am not your advisor. The things that I'm going to share with you over time are not, what's the word I'm looking for? It's nothing a financial advisor would ever advise. But I'm just going to show you as we get more subscribers. But right now, I just want to cover the news. Michelle, have you heard of Michael Saylor or MicroStrategy?
No.
I, funny enough, traded stocks during the .com era. And so I had to go back and look up MicroStrategy because that was not one of the stocks that I traded at the time. So it opened up. They were founded in 1989. They went public in 1998 for $12 a share. So do you remember the .com era?
Yeah, I remember because you got sick because you lost a lot.
Yeah, I lost a lot of money. I was an early young trader during the .com era, and it was brutal. I learned a lot of hard lessons. But what I can tell you is it opened at $12 a share. It surged all the way up to $333 a share, if you can imagine that, right? Had some return. Wish I would have known about that one at the time. But then it crashed down to 42 cents a share. Can you imagine, right? You're sitting on your high horse at $330 a share, and then it literally goes to less than $1. Sounds kind of like Bitcoin, right? We've had that wild ride. But what I can tell you is this CEO, who's one of the most seasoned ones as far as duration, in 2020 started buying up Bitcoin. His company started buying up Bitcoin. Now, why do you think he would do that, Michelle?
He probably believed in the product early on.
Right? I would agree, and he understood something that even at that point in my life, I don't think I fully understood. And that was the problems that Bitcoin was trying to solve. A pure system, an alternative system to a failing system, in my opinion. Why are we failing? Debt is increasing. We are encouraged, and I was part of that government system for quite a while. We're encouraged to spend. Let's raise more taxes. Social Security is near default within the next decade. Well, what are we going to do? We're going to print more money. The Fed's just going to print more money to cover those expenses. And what does that do? Well, if you've played Monopoly and everybody has more money at the start of the game, guess what happens to the cost of everything on the board? It has to go up. It has to go up. Do you like Monopoly?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you played with me quite a bit over the years, and I can tell you it's a bloodbath, right? If you're not making enough, if your job is not keeping up with inflation, which most don't, every year you're working a little harder and making a little less. Now, on paper, it looks like you're making more, but you're really not, right? Our home, our first home, what did we buy it for? Do you remember?
I think it's 101.
Yeah, about $102,000 was our first home back in 2000. Okay, mm-hmm. That home now is worth, what would you say? Maybe $250?
Yeah, it's in Kansas though, so.
Yeah, it's a home in Kansas, right? It's the Midwest, costs are low.
Yeah.
It's amazing. But what I can tell you is the taxes have more than doubled. The insurance has more than doubled. The cost of repairs and a new roof, right? It's Tornado Alley. Things happen. The cost of lumber and labor and everything has gone up. So now we're better in the fact that we had an appreciating asset, right? That's leveraged because we didn't put $102,000 down when we bought it. So it has gone up in value. But then when we sell it, we're going to have to pay realtor fees. It's a rental. So unless we 1031 it, there's going to be an insane amount of taxes. There's just fees and fees and fees. Real estate it's been good for us, but it's been an extreme hassle in a lot of cases. Being military, moved around a lot. We picked up properties, and what happens at like 10 o'clock at night with our renters?
I don't know.
Well, yeah, I'm the one farming the text messages, but it could be anything from, hey, the air conditioner went out in Florida. Right? That can't wait. Humidity levels are high. I got to get somebody out there immediately. I'm paying after hours charges. And then, it's beyond repair. $12,000 to $15,000 later, we got a new heat pump. Things like that happen. It seems like every day. What was I doing last week at our other rental?
Fixing the fence.
Fixing a fence. I was building a gate. Now, I would have hired somebody, but I can't find a contractor that's willing to do it for even anything that's remotely reasonable because it's a small job. It's a gate and like one panel. Nobody wants to do it. So rentals, although they've been good and they've kept us in what I would consider retirement, I'm not retired. I'm always working on these things, or I have property managers and they're hiring people. But I can tell you in that case, they come out, they fix the thing. Let me mute my phone. And then guess what? That same issue becomes an issue a year or two from now because they didn't do it right. So that's my rant on rentals. Sorry, I just want to mute my phone. Boom. All right, so anyway, Michael, going back to the news article, he's been buying up Bitcoin over time. And in this article, he acquired almost 5,000 Bitcoin. So, Michelle, how much do you think 5,000 Bitcoin is in actual dollars? She's doing the math in her head right now.
$1 million something.
$1 million. No, it's quite a bit more than that. It's like $531 million.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah, so that's a huge... When he started doing this is just at the end of June. Between that 1 week of June. So he's been buying and buying and buying. Everybody thought he was crazy, right? But here's what I would tell you. He will be, in America, in my opinion, in the top top 10 most valuable companies in the world. So literally, he's gone from 41 cents a share, practically worthless, bankrupt company, and he's turned this thing around. Companies are starting to add Bitcoin to their balance sheets. And that is a different thing altogether. It's not your mom and pops, your Bitcoin nerd heads, your what are the holders, right, in this underground nefarious thing anymore. No, the public companies are starting to acquire it, and they're not the only one. GameStop the other day announced they were going to get like a $500 million Bitcoin, not Bitcoin, but dollars worth of Bitcoin. And here's what I would say: there is only 21 million Bitcoin ever, not annually, ever. That was by design. And so if you have demand that exceeds supply, what do you think it does with the price, Michelle?
Makes it go up.
It has to go up.
Want it.
It's simple math. It's literally fifth grade math. So I now it is cycles, right? But what I've seen over the last 18 years is those cycles are actually starting to lessen as far as the volatility. Now FTX, because there were scandals there, and I can't think of the guy's name, Sam Berkman, I think it was. He was embezzling money to fund his Bermuda. There was a lot of bad stuff going there because it's unregulated. And under President Trump, he's working on that regulation to regulate a pro-crypto environment. So we don't know what that looks like yet. But yeah, companies are adding it to their balance sheets. So that is a step, a bullish step for Bitcoin. Let me go to the next article. Now, were you aware that El Salvador, have you ever been there?
No.
I haven't either. I'd like to go, though. This Bitcoin Beach thing that we're going to talk about looks amazing. I want to check it out. Well, anyway, what they did is they adopted Bitcoin as their currency. Okay, so what does that even mean? That means they started buying it up. The actual country started buying up Bitcoin. A country, right? Tax-paying citizens, they're buying Bitcoin and adding it to their balance sheet. Now, I read this article back in like 2019, not this article, but another one saying they were doing that. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's changing everything. When you have government that's starting to buy Bitcoin, going back to the supply and demand thing, guess what happens to Bitcoin? It's got to go up. It has to. There's no way around it. So anyway, this El Salvador Beach from 2019 to present adopted Bitcoin as a standard currency. Now, they were on the dollar. They don't have their own currency, but the dollar is losing value, right? Why is it losing value? Our national debt goes up every year. Our ability to pay back the treasury bonds that we've issued to other countries becomes less and less likely. Our credit rating has actually gone down in the last year or so because of our debt rising. There's more risk. We have to pay higher interest rates on that debt. I read something the other day. You know how much we spend on our military annually? It's a large number, right?
No, I don't.
I don't either, but I could look it up. But our actual interest that we're paying on our debt right now exceeds our military budget. And it's getting worse. And this big, beautiful bill they're going to pass, that is going to add more debt. Guess what? How are they going to pay for it? They're going to print more money. Guess what that creates? More inflation. I literally listened to Jerome Powell the other day on CNBC for like an hour and a half. He's, for the lack of better words, screwed. He has to cut interest rates. The labor market is struggling a little bit. The housing market is frozen. People do not want to leave their sub 3%, 2% interest rates because if they sell their home, right, you got all those realtor fees and whatnot, and they move to a new home, they'll have a lesser house and their payment will be higher right now. So everything's locked up and frozen. Think of small businesses trying to get financing. Our financial system as it stands right now is an absolute mess, and Jerome Powell's going to have to cut interest rates. And what is that going to do? Well, again, more debt, more inflation. He's damned if he does, and he's damned if he doesn't. So going off of the United States standard and moving on to, say, a Bitcoin standard is what El Salvador did. Now, here's the problem. the IMF, the World Bank. Did you know we had a World Bank?
I did not.
We do. So what they've done is they've come up with a bunch of countries and they basically contribute to keep this world central bank in operation. And they actually offered the Salvadorian people and the government a bunch of money to take Bitcoin off of their monetary standard. Now they can still transact in it, but they can't pay taxes in it or pay for government fees with Bitcoin. Now here's the irony of all this, and I had some notes here. So in 2019, they were the first Bitcoin economy. They had previously, I mentioned this, they had the dollar they adopted. Now, in this article here, Robin traveled to Bitcoin Beach to experience the difficulty level of transacting in Bitcoin, which is something we don't really do much in America right now, and there's reasons for that. But what she found was, I believe, is an app that you downloaded, you connected it to your crypto wallet, and they were seamlessly able to buy beers and transact during their entire trip. Everybody seemed to accept it. They literally came out with a Square type reader. They tapped the phone, boom, whatever that beer costs in Bitcoin, away it went. So it's like a sub-layer, a sub-network that they've built. And even though they've banned it from being able to pay taxes and whatnot, they're still transacting in it. Now, what would be the benefit of an ecosystem that has a limited supply? The set rules of, there's a white paper. It hasn't changed in the last 18 years and adoption continues to grow. What would be the benefit to the citizens? So she interviewed someone. There's been a 90% increase in tourism since the change was made. One of the locals said it changed his life. His friends were either dead and in jail, and they came from a poor family, and he adopted the new standard and has benefited from that, right? Because the price of Bitcoin has been going up. He's since traveled to Argentina, Spain, and the Czech Republic to become an educator of Bitcoin. He's planning a trip to Las Vegas, right? So why is that important? Well, if he'd not adopted a Bitcoin standard, he'd be on the dollar standard, and guess what? The dollar buys less and less every year by design, unfortunately. It's just a reality of that system. So now, the powers that be, like I said, in 2025, the government reversed its legal tender policy from pressure from the IMF, and Bitcoin still remains widely accepted there, just not for taxes and government fees and whatnot. All right, so eventually, hopefully I can do a video and transact that or do a live stream from El Salvador Beach. Wouldn't that be amazing?
That would be.
Bring the kids. Here, I'm sorry, my wife's got our little rodent. And, yep, right there, that's Kiwi. She's joining us. I don't think we can bring her to El Salvador Beach, but maybe someday. We'll see. Maybe we'll live there. All right. You want to do a trip there?
I wouldn't mind going to see it, yeah.
All right. Well, if we get enough subscribers, we'll live stream from there.
Live stream?
Yeah. Or whatever those words meant to say. Third article. Let's talk about Texas, right? Think back during COVID and California and how much business they've lost to a progressive state like Texas that's business friendly and doesn't want to tax the hell out of their citizens. Guess what? More businesses create more jobs create more revenue. But I find this very interesting and probably the most important article of all this. In June, Texas became the third U.S. state to establish a strategic Bitcoin reserve. So, Michelle, what does that mean to you? Why is that significant in the Bitcoin community? Do you understand what the reserve even means?
No.
Okay, let me explain it. And that's why you're here, because 99% of the viewers probably don't,
Well, I was just going to say this because everything's bigger in Texas.
Everything is bigger in Texas, but you still got to pay for big. So what they've done is, let's say they're collecting tax revenue, okay, from their citizens. It could be registering your vehicle, it could be home taxes from businesses, whatever that is. Well, that revenue is collected in what? What currency?
Dollars.
Dollars. Okay. Well, if every year the dollar is becoming less and less valuable, what does that do? You know, obviously they have expenses. The money comes in, the money comes out. But typically, and I don't know about Texas, but typically a lot of our states are struggling to pay their obligations. We're in Washington State, and I know their deficit right now is insanely high, money that's already been spent. And every time there's a voter ballot that comes through, they're trying to raise taxes, right? They got to pay for all this. So what Texas has done is allowed tax-paying citizens in the state of Texas through government oversight to buy Bitcoin.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and they're going to stick it in this strategic reserve. So Texas is going to have a fund that government manages that buys Bitcoin. So what does that look like? You're in a live stream right now, just to let you know.
Not on the camera, though.
No, she is on the camera.
Oh.
I'll see if I can fix it later. So they're buying Bitcoin. And what does that mean for Bitcoin?
It's going to go up because there's going to be less of it.
Exactly. So what happens, there's 3 states in America that have done this. Do you think it's going to stay at 3?
No.
So what happens when Wisconsin decides that they want to start buying Bitcoin? And Maine and Hawaii?
Yeah, Bitcoin is going to go up.
No, it's going to be
Bitcoin.
a race.
Well, yeah, and eventually it'll be none. There'll be none.
No, there'll always be Bitcoin. There's 21 million of them. And funny enough, a lot of them have been lost. It's estimated 20% of Bitcoin's been lost. So you take about 4 million Bitcoin off there. There's probably, 17 million accessible Bitcoin right now. So I guess what I'm saying is a lot of people, when I talk about Bitcoin, they feel like they've missed the boat. Well, yeah, you have. If you could have bought it at $1 and now it's at 110,000 a coin, you missed that boat. But is this train ride over? No, not at all. You have predictions, right? Going back to Michael and MicroStrategy, he's predicting in the next 20 years, Bitcoin is going to hit 13 million a coin. Think about that. For every Bitcoin that a citizen owns, or a company, or the state of Texas, or Tesla, or whoever, think about the 2 systems that we've talked about. The monetary system in the United States of America and what that looks like with inflation and the devalue of our currency, and Bitcoin. Okay, 20 years from now, if I have, let's see, Bitcoin's at 108,000, I think, right now. Let's just look it up.
That's what I was going to ask. How much is it right now?
Let me look it up.
See, if it was 108, then 5 of them would have been
$500,000.
Yeah.
550,000. Yeah.
So we'll have to go back because I think I was right on my prediction.
Okay, so Bitcoin is at 110,000 a coin right now. That's insanity. There it is. Boom. You watched it live here on Team Bitcoin. We've hit 110,000 a coin. Now the actual high is 111. It's probably going to hit it over the 4th of July weekend. I'm actually hoping it will pull back a bit, and I'll tell you why. I'm done with the United States monetary system. I've lived long enough to see the insanity of it and what it's doing to our citizens. And so over time, I'm getting rid of dollars and I'm investing in Bitcoin. So I've discussed this with my wife. What do you think about that?
No, I was on board years ago.
Yeah. She was on board when it was less than $1.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the problem. I don't know what the price is going to be tomorrow or the day after tomorrow and the day after tomorrow. We have a primary...
the next day.
Yeah,
and
the next day. We have a primary house that we're not living in right now. We've since moved. I have to make a decision and either sell it or take a loan against it. But I can tell you those funds are going to be used to buy Bitcoin. What else does that look like? Well, my earnings, I run a small business. I get a pseudo-retirement from the government. That's going into Bitcoin. I have some savings and investments. That's going into Bitcoin. Am I buying it all at once? No, I'm not. Over time, I'm adding because the math is undeniable. The adoption rate is undeniable, and I hate to say the 99% of the public that doesn't adopt this standard is going to get left behind in a very big way, especially when that big beautiful bill is passed in a couple days. So, but again, not financial advice. I'm not telling you to sell everything you have, because we do have fallbacks. I have a guaranteed retirement right now. I have health care. If I screw this up, I'm still okay. So I'm not telling you to bet the farm and put everything you have into it, although I'm doing something similar to that. I can tell you I trade options around it. There's ways to do that. I have retirement accounts, Roths, and as many Bitcoin haters as there are people that love it. I can tell you the returns over the last 18 years are undeniable. And I don't see that stopping anytime soon. I would welcome this to go back to 90,000. That way when I sell a house, I have about 7 Bitcoin or so. And yes, I absolutely will do that. And I will show you a video of how that even looks. So, but right now, and I don't want to go into specific details because I am playing more conservative investment that pays about 15% annually. And I'm having that as kind of a backup where I can pull the trigger when Bitcoin dips. But we're at a point this thing's going to fly, in my opinion, and it's already starting to do that. We're up 10% it briefly dipped below 99,000 or so, and then boom, shot back up 110. I'm in it for the long haul, so I love for you to like, subscribe, tune in, follow the adventure, learn from the news stories, the adoption, and I'm not jaded. I will look at the negative stuff too. I will try to seek that out, but honestly, there's so many positives right now. There's not a lot of negative. We have a pro-crypto government right now. We have Bitcoin funds that have been released within the last 18 months. They're buying up the supply because they have to, by law, regulated by the United States government. There's options around it. There's just adoption and news every day, and it's insanity. So I'm really curious the next state that's going to adopt it, because when you get government buying Bitcoin, it changes everything. And because government has huge revenue, and when they start buying it up, in Texas all of a sudden becomes more prosperity. The prosperity of a state like Texas, right? By adopting this standard, what happens when it goes up to 200,000 a coin? And the state of Texas is like, oh, we're not in a budget shortfall. We can pay our bills. But then another state's like, oh, we don't have enough revenue for our citizens, so we're going to have to raise taxes. That's exactly what's going to happen. And watch as each state start adopting, buying more. The federal government at a certain point is going to be forced to use taxpayer money to buy Bitcoin. And why do I say that? Another country on planet Earth is going to do exactly that. Not El Salvador, but another one. Switzerland, maybe. And they're going to start buying it up and putting it on their country reserves. And as soon as that, Saudi Arabia is another one. I could totally see that happening. Having actually been in that country, they're progressive that way, and they're forward-looking thinkers. They do not have the restrictions of government like we do. And as soon as that happens, watch. It's going to be like, the best way I can say it, think of Oprah when she gave away cars. There was an episode years and years ago. Did you ever see that? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Everybody in the audience.
You get a car. You get a car.
You get a car. You get a car. You get a car. Everybody's like storming in, excited with it. That's what's going to happen with Bitcoin. Saudi Arabia is going to buy up, whatever they buy up. And then another country is going to be like, well, I want that. I'm going to buy it. I'm going to buy it. And you're going to have the fear of missing out at that point. Because as soon as we cross 200,000, it will be undeniable. People are going to, the news coverage on that is going to be huge. And then you get the FOMO, and it's just going to keep going up and up. But there's going to be bumps in the road. So again, not financial advice. I don't want you to sell the farm. be diversified, keep yourself healthy, do the right thing. But you should at least be looking at this asset class. And again, I don't even consider it an asset class now. I consider it an alternative monetary system. I go back to The Matrix when that first got released. I was in the theater when that came out. You remember The Matrix?
Mm-hmm. Neo.
The first Matrix was awesome. When that helicopter came and it was firing out the shells at the building, and you saw the shell rounds and
falling.
And the cinematography of that was mind blowing. But not Morgan Freeman. I can't think of his name.
Lawrence Fishburne.
There we go. Lawrence Fishburne. When he offered the blue pill, is it the blue and red one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I want you to equate that to two monetary systems. What's called the red pill America, right? I don't want to call it a failing country because we seem to do it better than most. But there'll be a point where the dollar could potentially not become the world's currency anymore. A new standard's coming, an alternative system that you know the rules. The rules are set in stone. They cannot be broken. It's designed like the internet, which being the founding, I don't want to call it the founding father, but having set a lot of that up in the early days, the internet was designed. Do you know why they designed it the way they did?
No, I do not.
So the government actually designed it. And it was over in Hawaii, actually, was the underpinnings. But they designed it in a way that it would survive nuclear war.
Really?
Think about that. Yeah. So if you took out a country, the internet would still work. And that was designed by government. And funny enough, the irony of whoever, Satoshi, I believe is his name, he's kept himself in the darkness. Why? Because he's probably the richest person on earth right now. If he's still alive, I'm assuming he is. Which is amazing. But he had to have an understanding of cryptology, which I worked with those guys way back when. He had to understand networks. He had to understand the financial system. I shouldn't say he. They would probably be, it could be a girl. They had to understand, the financial system and why it's broken, how governments fail, to come up with that white paper and that design. He had to understand software and coding. The guy's a genius. And he released this technology to the world, and he's letting the world decide, does it have merit? Is it worth your time? We'll let the world decide what it's worth. And he had a curtain, and initially he was opening that curtain faster, but he understood Ohm's law. And as computers got faster, the difficulty rate of mining Bitcoin became more difficult, and the curtain started to lift slower and slower and slower. And they're letting the world decide what Bitcoin's worth. Now, there's no doubt in my mind we're 5xing from the current price in my lifetime. And I'll go back to that video when that happens. It'll be all over the news, so we'll have plenty to talk about. Could it go back down to 50 first? Sure it could. I just hope that happens when I'm selling a house, because then I'll have more Bitcoin. But I absolutely, in my lifetime, there's no doubt in my mind it's going to $1 million. Now, the predictions from MicroStrategy, there's Kathy from ARK Investments. When I initially heard all their predictions, I'm like, that's insanity. But I did not understand that what would cause that to get to those levels. And so when I hear, hey, it's going to 6 million or 8 million or 10 million or 30 million or whatever it is, you got to think of Bitcoin. You're not investing $30 million. I mean, you might be if you're Elon Musk, but you invest what you can afford. And you have to decide what financial system you want to be a part of. Do you want to be part of a failing system? Or do you want to be part of one that has all the problems solved of a failing system? I've already decided. So with that, I don't want to torture the soul. This has been quite a longer video than I had hoped. But I want to shell out Bitcoin news to the best of my ability. Talk about it. When we can get up to, 5 or 10,000 subscribers, I want to really start diving into how I'm personally making tons of cash in Bitcoin. If this channel were to ever make anything significant, I would want to give some of that back to the subscribers. If there's any revenue based on this through YouTube, through monetization, whatever, I don't need the money, but I want to hopefully give that back somehow back to the subscribers. So like and subscribe. This is something for long down the road, but when Bitcoin hits 1 million, which could happen, in the next couple of years or less, like I said, we'll come back to that. And if there is revenue on this, we're going to go ahead and you get a car. You get a car. You get a car. With that, take care.